Intern and J. Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
How you feeling?
We're good. Him or me? Tyler?
Well, how are you feeling?
I'm beat up.
Oh, man.
You know.
So, bro.
So tough, dude.
I was at the lake all weekend and
shirt off, singing.
Didn't have to pay to stay at a resort.
Free drinks.
In swimsuit attire for 48 hours. Probably came home with like $1,500, $2,000. Singing the same songs I always do. Girls in bikinis and thongs running around everywhere.
It gets old. It's exhausting.
Oh my God.
My life is so tough.
Hey, if you were out like doing manual labor this past weekend, building a fence, digging ditches, chopping down trees, rebuilding a house, roofing.
You are the heartbeat of America.
You can call Jay Stevens between the hours of 3 and 7, weekdays, Monday through Friday, and you can scream at him for complaining that he's beat up after playing shows all weekend.
Yeah.
I'm Mike the Intern.
I'm
That's Jay Stevens, and this is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 232. And on that note, this week was a documentary that was released in theaters a couple months ago, and it's finally now available for streaming services. It is called Becoming Led Zeppelin.
I went and saw it Alamo opening day.
You and Brian got to go see it.
Yeah, I went with the general manager. He took me on a field trip.
Unfortunately, could not go because it was also a teacher training day. So my kid was out of school, and I think he would have been okay. Honestly, we've done a few things like movie theater stuff, and he has been amazing.
Good.
So even like an hour and a half high school graduation, like he was so good. So he's passed the test multiple times.
All right, well, that's cool. All you can say.
So I should have taken him. But I'm glad I didn't because I really got to focus when I watched it. And before we get into it, would you like to share any personal Led Zeppelin stories that you have? Did you ever see Page and Plant?
No. My mom went and saw Led Zeppelin, and she fell asleep. Probably passed out, probably is what the word's supposed to be.
I fell asleep. No, you didn't.
No, I would grab her Yardbirds records and bump those, and then that led me to getting her Zeppelin records. And I remember playing a bunch of them backwards, trying to hear some devil messages. I remember doing that when I was like in 7th grade, 6th grade.
That's pretty good. I saw Page and Plant when I was 15 at the Dome in St. Louis. It was unbelievable. First time someone offered me a joint in public.
Did you take it?
I was in the bathroom.
Did you take it?
And the dude, it was like all of a sudden I'm in the bathroom in the stall and I hear this.
You sure it was a joint he was passing?
And all of a sudden he goes underneath with his finger.
What?
And I was like, my parents were there, but they were at the seats. And I was like, screw it.
You did it?
Passed it back. Thanks, dude. And
then
went back to my seat. I'm not advocating that use of marijuana at that early, but that's what I did. And that show was unbelievable. The closest I could have ever gotten to see Led Zeppelin was that. Yeah. I was obviously a massive fan of that band. One of the first songs that I learned on guitar to impress a girl was the Rain song. Even figured out the tuning, which was weird because I'd only been playing guitar for, at that point, maybe 2 to 3 years. And for me to be like, okay, I'm going to learn this song and take the time to figure out what the tuning was and why he did that way and all that stuff. Once you figure out the tuning, it's really not that difficult of a song to play. But yeah, that was trying to pick up Ashley was that song, was the Rain song.
Where's Ashley nowadays?
She is in, I want to say Portland. Married, kid, about the same age as Ollie. She's doing good from last time we talked, which was a couple years ago.
Does she know you're a big famous radio star?
I don't know. I think she knows what I do, but that was one of those things where it was my first love, and then I came home one day from school, and my dad goes, "We're moving to Springfield, Missouri," and I was like, "What?" And we tried to make it work, but we're 15, 16 years old. It's work. But we stayed friends, and it's one of those things where life does its thing, and you've got to figure out what you do after that. And
there you go.
That's
Life
my
lessons
story.
with Mike the Intern. Love connections.
Are we talking about Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, we are.
Anyway, we're going to come back with this documentary. Don't want to ruin it all for you. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 232, Becoming Led Zeppelin, Jay's pick this week. Why this documentary was so amazing in its scope was the fact that this band did not give interviews from the moment they started. I mean, in the beginning, they would do a little bit of press, but after 2, they did nothing.
They would just roll in, rock,
the one interview, they had one interview from Bonham to use, where he talked about his life.
Stuff with him.
He did not give interviews, and this was by design. Jimmy Page had, been with the Yardbirds, had been a studio musician, had become financially pretty successful. Owned that boathouse on the Thames that he showed where they rehearsed. Can you imagine someone hires you to be a singer and they're going to come out of my house, man.
Stay here at the boathouse.
And you get there and you're like, wow.
Yeah,
you were homeless, by the way, when that happened too. You know what I mean?
The thing that I was most amazed about was I did not know, I'm a big Zeppelin fan of that era stuff. They're my favorite band from that era. I did not know Jimmy Page was like the mastermind behind it all. I thought it was like a band.
No.
It was Jimmy Page's band. These guys were all the characters.
To say that is doing a disservice to the others, because they all admit that, in the beginning, yes, Page had a very, very good idea of how he wanted it to be.
Wild, man.
He also was very smart in the sense that while he was a session musician, he paid attention, he asked questions.
How to record.
And then he brought Glenn Johns in to engineer, which in my opinion, I think that's where it gets a little muddy. I think Glenn produced a lot more of the record than Jimmy's going to give credit for.
Well, Jimmy's famous for taking credit for things that he didn't really do. Yeah.
But to say that Glenn was the engineer and not really more of a co-producer on that first record is giving Glenn a disservice. That's my own personal opinion. It is what it is.
I'll agree.
But but then after that, the beginning they kind of laid the groundwork, but then he let the other members breathe and be who they were in the scope of this is kind of what I'm thinking, and then they come in and do their thing.
Man.
That part of it, the fact that the whole first record was self-financed, allowed them to then not just shop a bunch of songs around, just say, this is a finished product. Would your record label like to put this out?
Yeah.
And then go into a bidding war, having Peter Grant as your manager, who was just unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
How close they were to getting Terry Reid as their lead singer, and then the guy who was working with Peter Grant stole him and signed him on his own as a solo artist.
Perfect. Good.
Which, again,
Fate intervened.
And then... So, to hear from these guys and hear the things that, especially me, who is a self-proclaimed, I know a lot about this stuff. I've known a lot about this stuff for years and years and years. I learned a lot about these guys that I did not know. And again, because they didn't give interviews, rarely. A lot of the stuff that Plant talked about in his early days, he's never really talked about
that.
You know what I mean?
And I did think it was cool how they used AI to clean up the concert footage and stuff, so it looks really crisp and
good.
nice. The only flaw the documentary had was it did do like every Led Zeppelin documentary does. The concert footage seemed a little drawn out. Okay, I could have done for half a song, not the whole song.
To stay in it. Well, I think they were trying to show that it was good.
I know.
Also, the fact that a lot of those recordings even exist is a miracle, because they did not let that stuff happen.
Dope, dude. It's a good documentary, man.
To me, it's such a wild thing that Page would, especially with Led Zeppelin 2, the feeling was that we're going to record it while we're on the road so that we retain the energy of the road in the studio. It's brilliant. That makes perfect sense. Why they didn't go just a little bit further and document everything?
Yeah.
Neil Young has literally recorded every show he's done since '67.
Well, that's Neil Young.
But he documented it. Page and those guys, they didn't document. They just boom, 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 boom.
Went out there and did it, man. You had to be there.
Maybe that's because they were session musicians at heart. Either way, we'll come back, talk more about Becoming Led Zeppelin next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 232, Becoming Led Zeppelin. So another interesting thing is that JPJ and Jimmy Page, both very well respected and successful studio musicians before this even started.
Yeah.
Before
John Paul Jones, he
Jimmy Page, he had it
career.
made.
Yeah.
Whenever his wife, by the way, who was the one who pushed him to join the group, she pushed him because she said that whenever she goes, hey, I heard Jimmy's starting a new band. Maybe you should go check that out. He's like, what are you talking about? I got this session. I got this. I can't do that. And she pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. And then he would then call Jimmy and he's like, you want to be a bass player? He goes, yeah, I do. But we got this problem. We can't get this drummer because his wife won't let him play with Robert Plant.
Yes.
Which I thought that was hilarious.
So good.
Because Bonham has this attitude.
Like he's the wild one.
You're like, he's crazy. But in the beginning, his wife was like, no, you got to stay away from Robert because Robert was the one who always got in trouble.
Well, and Robert Plant was the first like prototype like blonde, sexy singer guy. Like he set the tone, for what singers should be.
For sure.
What singers should be,
Yeah, a front man. But I thought that was interesting. I thought the fact that JPJ and Page played on. Goldfinger together, which is amazing.
Yeah, it was some cool stuff. Cool tidbits in here, man.
The last Donovan record that they basically all played on, which was like Bonham, Page, and JPJ, which was like proto. That was interesting to see. The other thing that I want to note is that you can really in this documentary see why this band was so successful. And what I mean by that is I'm in a band right now called Do Not Answer. And for the first time in my life as a musician, as a band member, as a band leader, as a writer, I'm in a band for the first time that we have another member who has a production acumen, that knows how to engineer, that knows how to record, that knows how to cut, that knows how to mix, that knows how to master, that knows how to do video stuff. Up until this point, at 42 years old, every single band I've ever been in.
Just you?
I've been the only one that had to be that guy that had to say, no, dude, I know what you're thinking, but it's or that would be cool, but, or like where you get in these arguments where it's like they don't understand. We deal with it with salespeople all the time, what it actually takes to execute what your idea is. Never to say that the idea is a bad one. It's just you have to be realistic with time, with money, with ability. And so in this, it gave me the perspective because for the first time I'm in a band that I have someone where I can do things, step back, he can come in, he can do things, step back, I can come in. That has made my life so much easier.
Nice, yeah.
And in Led Zeppelin, you have the same thing. You have a guy who is as technically good at guitar player as you can. He's an incredible songwriter, not the greatest lyricist. But then you have another guy in the band who was literally doing arrangements for almost every pop record being recorded in the UK. And so you got JPJ, who could play literally any instrument that he wanted to play and then arrange for the band.
Talented cat, yeah.
And then you got Jimmy Page, the creative force, and you have them both in the same band with, of course, Robert Plant's talents and then John Bonham's talents. How could it not have been successful?
It's a super group, really. It
is, but you see what I'm saying? I think that is something that people don't realize is that when you have Page and Jones together, you have something that usually one band only has. One band only has one of. You have one Paul McCartney.
You got two of them.
You've got two guys that understand what this is. And then to hear JPJ talk about Bonham in the sense of the rhythm section, and when he says, I was in love with his right foot. Because the way he could accent, just double bass with just one foot and keep it.
One of the top drummers from that era, man.
The other thing, too, was I loved the story about, because from Bonham himself, in the recording they did have, he talked about how James Brown's drummers were his biggest influence, like Gene Krupa and stuff like that. But really, it was James Brown. And he said years later in like 69 when they were playing the Newport Festival and James Brown was playing there, Zeppelin's on stage, and JPJ said it was so cool to see all of his drummers come out of the back and watch him. Because then you're like, oh, and he said Bonham knew it too, because then he leaned into it. He was like, oh, okay,
here we go. I got showtime.
I thought that was beautiful. I also thought it was beautiful because JPJ's family were musicians and traveling performers. And so a lot of the guys that JPJ played with as a session dude were way older than them, would go back to his dad and say, oh, hey, I played on a session with your kid.
Man.
He's great. And as a dad, that's like,
The only thing, it's called Becoming Led Zeppelin, so it just shows the early years. It doesn't show once they hit it big.
Yep.
It doesn't show so I would have liked to see more, but it was a very cool insight. I learned a lot. Like I said, I thought I knew a lot about Led Zeppelin. But
it was good. Really good. We'll come back with our reviews of it next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio one more time. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 235 this week was Becoming Led Zeppelin. I would give
232?
232. I would give it a solid 5, 4.5, 5. I mean,
I'll go 4. I'll go 4.
You're just the too long on the concert stuff.
Yeah, and I would have liked more. They just hit it big. And then it stops.
That's
where
I
wanted to see.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the downfall of the drummer. I wanted to see all this stuff.
Yeah, but I think
maybe there'll be a part 2.
Well, I don't think there will be for 2 reasons. One, the guy who pitched this started with Jimmy. And from what I understand, that was what got it. They don't want to go through Jimmy's witchcraft and heroin use.
Right.
They don't want to go through. Robert Plant doesn't want to go through losing his kid.
I did hear rumor that they're going to do a Becoming Pink Floyd movie,
which would be great.
Right.
But they don't want to go through losing Bonham. You can tell that's still those things are still very fresh for them. And again, for a group of guys that had set the tone day one, we control everything. The record executives don't tell us anything. We're the ones that are giving interviews when we want, which wasn't a lot, especially after the first record comes out and Rolling Stone gives them a pan. You think they're going to go back to when they want to talk to them again?
Yeah.
Like, no, you guys can give us a bad review again, and that's it. I'm not going to talk to you and sell you magazines, which makes perfect sense. So that is how they got to do this in the beginning. Is the director pitched it as, I'm not going to get into the hard stuff. I want to get into what created this and what started this.
That's cool.
That's
a good angle. It's a good angle.
And I think and then once he did that, he was then told that you have to get the other guys on board, because I think that's how they always operated. Was they were very much individuals that all wanted to fight for a common goal.
Which is probably why they didn't continue.
Yeah, once Bonham was gone,
it
was just never going to be the
because his son would be the perfect fill-in, But
Page and Plant did their thing, but it's not the same. It's not the essence of what was created.
Not to mention, there's no way Plant can sing like that anymore.
No, and that's also with time, big time. But
so I'll go 4. It was
great.
What are we watching next week?
The new documentary on HBO Max called Pee Wee Has Himself.
Pee Wee Herman.
Which one of these days I will have a Pee Wee tattoo. He will be another.
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure. I watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure probably at least every month, maybe more.
There we go.
It's one of my favorite movies of all.
Now you're learning about Mike becoming Mike the Intern is what this became.
Becoming Mike. God, that would be a documentary. As always, you can watch us do this on Facebook at 9 a.m. every Thursday, or YouTube. We do it live on my show at the same time. Jay's show at 6 p.m., or you can always download it as a podcast for free on our new improved 104.7 The Cave app.
Ooh, new improved.
But as always, I'm Mike the Intern.
I'm Jay Stevens.
That's Jay. I never make mistakes, Stevens. And we
watch documentaries so you don't have to.
Dark Side of Stream on 104.7 The Cave.
Becoming these two guys. That could be our documentary.
Becoming Magic Tyler.
Becoming, oh my gosh. Just peek behind the curtain of that, right?
Your boy was hammered on Saturday.
Who was him?
Uli. Oh my God.
Uli